Learning how to solve a Rubik's Cube can seem like a daunting task. Even after accomplishing it, it seems impossible that some people can do it so quickly. In this video, I'll give you an improvement plan that takes you from learning how to solve the cube to averaging under 15 seconds. Videos mentioned will be linked in the description. Each section of this video will also have timestamps in the description, so you can skip to whichever part you want. You are probably wondering why you should be listening to me. Some of my personal records for 3x3 will be on screen so that you know what I am talking about. Additionally, throughout the video, some of my solves will be playing. I also think that since I have been at the sub 15 level more recently than top cubers, I remember more of the experience and struggles of getting there. I compare this reasoning to why you might prefer a college student tutoring you rather than a professor. Staying motivated while cubing can definitely be hard. Struggling to learn how to solve or learn a new concept can result in frustration and anger. I would recommend being patient when learning new algorithms or ideas and taking frequent breaks when you start to feel tired. When you are simply doing solves, I recommend doing something else in the background to make it more entertaining. These things could include listening to music, audiobooks, or watching a YouTube video on your second monitor. Additionally, tracking your progress can help as the improvement is more concrete and you can see it more easily. Finally, mini goals like getting a sub 30-second solve by the end of the week, rewarding yourself after good practice sessions, and a positive attitude can all contribute to a longer cubing career. The first step is obviously learning how to solve. It can take a while to learn, and many people don't even try. If you're here, you're already doing better than most. There are a variety of tutorials on learning the Rubik's Cube. I wouldn't recommend one single one, but rather looking at a few and finding the one that fits you the best. I've linked 3 separate ones in the description. Additionally, I think the easiest way to learn how to solve the cube is if someone else can teach you. So if you know someone, you can ask them if they would take the time to teach you how. The next step is averaging under 90 seconds. At this point, I would start recording your solves with a timer. I personally recommend CS Timer, and this is the most popular one that many other cubers use. This will also be linked in the description. At this point, you should be using the beginner's method, or the one that they teach in almost all videos. I don't think at this step there is any need to learn a new method. Sticking to the beginner's method will help you get better at the fundamentals, and it will also help you increase understanding of the cube and how it works. Averaging under a minute is a nice milestone to hit and shows you have spent a good chunk of time solving. I still think the beginner's method should be used until you're averaging at least near a minute. If you find you are stuck at around 1 minute and 10 seconds, consider learning the topics I will discuss in the next section of the video. This step is pretty similar to the one before and just focuses on refining the techniques you've already learned in the beginner's method. After reaching a point where you are solving under a minute, it is time to change up your method. Before pushing my CFOP agenda, I would like to mention that RU and ZZ are also both very good methods that you can find resources on. RU is notably good for one-handed, and ZZ concepts like edge orientation can be very helpful to learn. This guide will stick to CFOP though, as it is the most popular. If you want to learn one of the other methods, feel free to find a tutorial for those. Now if you choose CFOP, I'd recommend that at this point you learn 2-look OLL and PLL. These are algorithms that let you solve the last layer faster. I will link the JPerm video for these algorithms below. While learning algs, I recommend you take it slowly and follow the finger tricks that JPerm does. In other words, learn the moves, but also learn how he does them to make it fast. This is something that I wish that I had done earlier on, as it would have saved me lots of time. Also, if you're still doing Daisy, I'd recommend transitioning to Cross. A video for this will also be linked. After you start solving consistently under 45 seconds, you probably want a cube that is better than the standard Rubik's brand. My first and cheapest recommendation is the Yushin Little Magic V1. It is my only non-magnetized recommendation, but my first solve ever under 10 seconds was achieved with it, so it can still definitely be a good cube. My second recommendation is the Moyu RS3M 2020. It was my first speed cube, and it is very solid and controllable. My third recommendation is the Dayan Guhan Pro M. It is the only cube on this list that I haven't tried personally, but I have heard and watched many solid reviews recommending it. It is especially good for one-handed. Finally, my last recommendation is the Moyu RS3M V5 Ball Core UV. It was my main cube for 2 years and it can perform very well. Since at this point you are still fairly new to the hobby, I wouldn't recommend buying anything too expensive as these options are all good. There will be links in the description where you can purchase them from the cubicle. At this point, improving starts to become more difficult, and you may struggle to continue progressing. My first piece of advice would be to start looking at and learning some basic finger tricks. These are definitely an underrated part of improving, in my opinion. Additionally, at around this point, it would also be good to start learning intuitive F2L. This is where you solve the first two layers at once. Learning F2L is notoriously confusing, and it will slow you down drastically after first learning it. Stick with it though and use it in your solves, and you will start to notice your times drop. Finally, at this point, you should be planning 3 cross edges during inspection, or at least close to doing it every time. Again, resources for all of these are in the description. Pushing for sub 20 is when the grind really starts. Getting here feels like a massive jump, and it is probably the place where most cubers quit. I would like to note that taking a break from cubing, whether for a week or a couple of months, isn't a bad thing. In my personal experience, I don't usually get much slower after returning. The first thing I would do is learn one look PLL. 21 algs is a decent amount, but some algs appear very rarely, and you can put them off for a while. G perms are the most common, but E perms and N perms are both very rare, so you can save those for the end. Additionally, at this point I would really start trying to one leg cross. This can take some practice and is definitely frustrating. I'd recommend not playing music or anything like that when practicing one leg and cross, as it can take quite a bit of concentration if you aren't proficient with it. Finally, I would learn advanced intuitive F2L. This also took me a while to learn, but it is definitely nice to not have to always take the pieces to the top layer, and it helped cut my time by a ton. Finally, take a look at a few more advanced finger tricks. Getting from sub 20 took me a good long while, and it is definitely a lengthy process for most. The only new thing I feel you really should learn is one look OLL, and if you don't want to commit yourself to learning that many algs, it isn't completely necessary either. I'd recommend just focusing on refining all the other parts of your solves. Try and make less rotations during F2L, you should always be one licking cross, and make sure you're incorporating good finger tricks into your solves and algs. This was my first long video, and it took me a second to make, with the script writing, voiceovers, and also editing. Given my channel size, I don't know if anyone will even see this part, but if you do, thank you for watching, and good luck with your cubing journey.